to Making Sense of the Madness. We got a great show lined up for you today. I'm not going to waste your time. We've got General Michael Flynn. We're going to be talking everything Trump 2024 and beyond. Ivan Racklin is also going to be joining us. A banger of a show. Buckle up and get ready to make sense of the madness. Are now joined by General Michael Flynn. He really needs no introduction and has been a driving force in this network. I also see him all the time on the Reawaken America tour, which again, he has been a driving force in. I'm going to be seeing him out there in October yet again. And here we are. I mean, that's the last Reawaken America tour date before the election. I don't think we're squeezing one in right before November. Who knows where that goes from here. You know, Trump seemed to be dominating in even the mainstream polls as much as they tried to massage them before the dropout of Biden, before the assassination attempt, etc. But since they've kind of anointed Kamala Harris, it seems like the mainstream media may be massaging the numbers, as there's also been no real impact in the mainstream polls since RFK Jr. has thrown his weight behind the campaign. So what are your thoughts on that aspect? Here we are. We're about 2 months and change out. Early voting is about to start. And, you know, as I said before the show, a lot of these mechanisms that have been put into place, in my opinion, to cheat the system and game the election have not gone away. And really, that's why we're hearing the mantra, too big to rig.
Yeah, so big picture, they're going to try to rig this thing again, and the Chinese Communist Party is behind it, and there's no doubt about it. How they are going to do it, where they're going to do it from, and it'll be much bigger than this 2020 election that only really touched on 6 counties. Now we're looking at I think a much bigger, broader attack on our democracy by the left, and so they're the ones that'll talk about how they're going to protect democracy and how Donald Trump is a danger to it. It's just the opposite. Don't ever fall for that. Now, in the 2020 run-up, there were, giant rallies for Trump. There were polls that had him clearly the front runner, and he was going to win. So as we go forward here into these next couple of months, I don't want people to be, I don't want anybody to lose sight of the fact that, rallies do matter. And polling matters to a degree. You can find out certain things. One of the things that I saw the other day was, and I don't believe it, but it appears from different polling type organizations that they call legitimate, that the likability factor for Kamala has gone up, which I was shocked at. But I don't want people to be enamored by giant rallies and poll numbers. What we have to do is we need to own the grassroots movement in this country, and we need to make sure that whether it's early voting, mail-in ballots, or same-day voting on election day, you got to get yourselves involved, and you got to go do it. I mean, I'll give you the stats from the recent Florida primary, where we had around 30% voting turnout. That was it. Most of that was mail-in ballots. I did not request a mail-in ballot, which is what you're supposed to do. And my wife and I, we did not request mail-in ballots, but we received them in the mail. We still went in and voted, in person. But the voting in person in Florida was on election day was 7%. That's disgraceful. So we are going to have to get people energized to go out and vote. I do think that people need to understand that there's no way in the world that Kamala Harris can win this election with standing on any strong platform or strong foundation of having achieved anything. I mean, even anything as a district attorney, attorney general, senator, and now as vice president of the United States. But what they are doing, and they're very smartly doing this, Jason, they are making her out to be the victim, as though she's not the vice president. right now. She is running against a current Trump presidency. I mean, the messaging, the propaganda, the PSYOP campaign against the American people through the corporate-owned media, which is still a dominant enterprise in this country for a large chunk of people that still listen to, the cable news networks and still listen to the big three. So we really, really got to work the grassroots organizations, whether it's through Patriot TV, through some of the other, strong conservative networks, and some of these events that we are having. You mentioned the Reawaken America tour. That's coming up in October. I think that's our 25th one. I'm so thankful that we actually started those back actually right after the 2020 election. We started those back in the March-April timeframe of 2021, and we've been carrying those out to get people energized, to get the base. I'm not talking about the MAGA base only. I'm talking about the grassroots of America. And I speak to many of them. I have been blessed to be able to get around this country a few times. We have our film out there that has enabled me to get an even bigger message out there. So let's talk about a couple of things. The assassination attempt of Donald J. Trump, of President Trump. I mean, the media dropped that like a hot potato and hasn't been talking about it. You mentioned, and we still need to, because that's not over yet. Their need to get Donald Trump off the stage, so to speak, is very high. And so there are foreign entities that I know that are after Trump. We already know that the FBI, believe them or not, but other entities out of New York, federal law enforcement and state and local law enforcement out of New York has been reporting on this Iranian and Pakistani connection. So that we should not discount the idea that somebody might try to take Donald Trump out. I hate talking like that, but these are people that are desperate to hold on to power.
General, let me jump
Kennedy
in right
Jr.
there, because I think there's a lot to be said about the assassination attempt, right? And before we even get there, let's talk about RFK Jr. for a second, right? Well, one of the things that I didn't expect was for the position of CIA director to be thrown out as a possible administration spot, right? A lot of people had talked about Attorney General, Health and Human Services, et cetera. I think of those, even Secretary of State. I think those are all great positions for the guy. But when he talked to Tucker Carlson in particular about this subject, what gets brought up? Well, of course, the JFK assassination. And, one of my big criticisms of Donald Trump's first administration is we were promised these documents. We only got a handful of them. Obviously, it's been revealed Pompeo is the one that supposedly got him not to release them. He said he will release them. And then they talked about the other assassinations, RFK, MLK, and the oversight that Bobby Kennedy would have. Now, when you mention this assassination attempt, I think that we have to keep in mind that there has not been a shot fired successfully at a president or former president before this for 43 years. Okay. You look at all that's a long period of time. We've never gotten to the bottom of this thing. And then we look at Crooks. No digital footprint, 20-year-old kid, still can't explain how he's walking around with a rangefinder, how he got the gun, how there seems to be a stand down, how, the officers all thought they were on the same line and said there was somebody on the roof. When you look at the 60s as a time period, you also have things like MK Ultra, et cetera, going on. Do you think there is the possibility that this assassination attempt is an extension of one of these types of programs? Now, I hate even speculating that way, but we haven't found anything really much about this kid other than the fact, he was in community college. His parents are both behavioral psychologists. He works in an institution with physically and mentally disabled people. So in other words, around a lot of doctors and medications, but again, doesn't seem to have a social life, no digital footprint, et cetera. When we look at RFK RFK in particular, Sirhan, a lot of people have speculated that's an MK Ultra type program. We're not even allowed to ask those questions. You're somebody who's been in high level intelligence. I'd love to get your opinion.
First of all, Pompeo and Pence are two of the people that convinced Donald Trump to not release the JFK files. So, let's get past that, folks, and make sure that everybody understands, because Trump should have done it. He didn't. He was convinced to not do it. but he should have done it then. And those two names are two of the names, among others, who convinced him not to do it. Of course, he's now said he's going to do it immediately. In terms of Bobby Jr. or Bobby Kennedy being the CIA director, that's fine. Like I think what he told Tucker was that he would not get past confirmation. Well, if he wouldn't get past confirmation for CIA director, then, and I don't think he was joking, that it would be tough to get past confirmation of Sec State or Sec Def or Attorney General. I do think that if Trump wins, Bobby Kennedy's bigger role needs to be above what the current CIA director or whoever that might be. He's got much greater things to offer this country. I think that the bigger question that you're asking is this extension from the 60s till now about attempted assassinations of presidents or presidential candidates, like Bobby Kennedy's father was, right? RFK. He was a candidate for the Democrat Party and was assassinated. And and there's all kinds of speculation about how that happened. All of this needs to be basically become very transparent to the American people. I mean, this debacle, this breakdown, whatever you want to call it, by the Secret Service for this recent assassination attempt is just horrific. Heads need to roll. People need to be fired. But it's well beyond just the Secret Service. We're talking about a complete reforming of the federal government, top to bottom, particularly the intelligence community. And I'm not talking about a reform like we had after 9/11. I'm talking about disassembling many parts of the federal government, particularly some of the federal law enforcement agencies, certainly the intelligence community, and other parts of certain federal departments, mainly places like the Department of Defense, the Department of State, and there's a couple of others, too, that need to be seriously reformed. I mean, the Department of Justice is, among them. So all of that said, this attempted assassination of Donald Trump and what we now have learned about it and what we still don't know about it, it's a reflection back to the period of the 60s where we had, JFK, the president of the United States, murdered. His brother, was the attorney general and then was campaigning for president of the United States. That's the whole reason why major candidates who are campaigning for big parties like Democrat or Republican get Secret Service, because of his assassination. People don't remember that. And people like Martin Luther King and frankly Malcolm X as well. I mean, the reassessing of the 60s assassinations and then tying them together with the assassination attempt of Ronald Reagan, the assassination attempt now of President Trump. I mean, all of these, tie back to something, to some issue that affects people who are willing to go do that. Now, what you're bringing up is this MK Ultra. These are not fake things. These are not conspiracy theory things. These are real things that our government has been involved in, as well as other programs. And that's why, if Trump wins, these people would be scared to death about what they're going to happen. So they're going to do anything that they can. You don't even see a big bump from Bobby Kennedy joining hands with Donald Trump. I mean, it shut down maybe the noise that was going to come out of the Democratic National Committee because of Bobby Kennedy's perfect timing of when he endorsed Trump, which was essentially the Friday after the DNC ended. That was masterful, and I know that was something that they worked on for a while. So, and that's good. That's a good thing. But going forward, Donald Trump, I think, really needs to stay very disciplined. He needs to stay on message. He needs to bring those type of people around that people do, hold huge respect for. I think the fact that Bobby Kennedy's going to be out there campaigning for him, I think that some of these other people that he's got around him, but he's got to be very disciplined. Attacking Kamala Harris, they are going to make her out to be a victim. And there are enough people that believe that, sadly, because it's all a lie. She's the vice president of the United States right now. everything that she's talking about, from the economy to the border to foreign policy, all of that could be changed right now. Sadly, we do not have a president of the United States that's in charge. We don't have, I mean, when was the last time that Joe Biden stood up and said anything that mattered or anything that made sense? I mean, this is a very, very dangerous time. We are facing wars overseas. We are going to face a global economic shift that we do not control. We don't control it, Jason. Vladimir Putin, about 48 hours ago, came out with a big statement about the BRICS shift and moving to a digital currency that is going to be gold backed. They're going to put the stamp of approval on that in October before the November election, despite what Trump has talked about. We're not going to move to a digital currency. Well, we're not going to have a choice in that matter. More than almost 3/4 of the world's population is now part of the BRICS. So these are things that are happening that this administration, with the Vice President Harris, as the Vice President right now, they could stop these things, or they could put a big, sort of thud over all or a blockade, on these economic issues, these border issues, the crime issues on our streets. They could do all this right now. Instead, what the media is going to do, they're going to help Kamala out to portray her as the victim, as this. And so the attacks on her have got to be very strategic and very shrewd and pointed at the political and policy issues and not at the personal issues. That's my greatest advice for the Republican Party going forward is to focus on the future and the things that we must do. Given a Trump victory, there has to be accountability, and then there has to be a shift towards immediate shift towards a stronger economy, a stronger defense. We've got to reform some of the government bloat that we have. I mean, we have got to increase the I would just call it the international prestige around the world immediately. Bring U.S. leadership back, and I mean on day one. And none of this, and I guess they will attack. Once Trump wins in November, that if you think that he's being attacked now or was attacked after the 2016 victory, I mean, watch what happens after a victory in November. But we
General,
have to.
we gotta take a break. First of all, I think you're spot on. Let's say we get past November. There's a huge hurdle to get into January. I think that's a big issue that people are not paying attention to. And I want to kind of focus on that and the possibility of just installing Kamala before the election to give her some type of legitimacy. I think that may be the October surprise coupled with some type of global event. We'll talk about that on the flip side of this break. It's Making Sense of the Madness here on Patriot TV.
The world is about to shift. Banks are going cashless globally with the emergence of central bank digital currency, which will bring with it programmable money and the ability to turn on or off your purchasing power based on your digital social profile. It's like the equivalent of spyware in your bank account. You need to get out of the system with the world's safest and most precious assets, silver and gold. Call Kirk Elliott Precious Metals at 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900.
Don't let them win. Patriot TV is committed to delivering the truth. America's new network for patriots is growing fast, and we'd love you to join us as a member of Patriot TV. Your support makes it possible for us to continue to deliver unbiased reporting, thought-provoking discussions, and insights you won't find anywhere else. From in-depth interviews to behind-the-scenes footage, Patriot TV brings you closer to the voices shaping our nation's future. Whether it's political developments, cultural shifts, or global affairs, Patriot TV keeps you informed and empowered. As a member of Patriot TV, you'll get perks like personal invitations to exclusive Patriot TV events, where you can gather and network with like-minded Americans. We'll also host online events throughout the year with General Flynn, who's committed to host live Q&A webinars where callers like you can ask him questions and get real answers. Access to these events will be members only, so go to patriot.tv, click on Become a Member. It's fast and easy. We have a great membership option starting at just $9.99 a month, Or save with our annual membership for only $99. Or take advantage of the best value, the 2-year membership for just $159. Go to patriot.tv, click on Become a Member. It's fast and easy. Do your part to make sure the truth gets out to all patriots and help ensure future programming. Become a member today. Just go to patriot.tv, click on Become a Member, join today.
And we are back. We are joined by General Michael Flynn. And, you alluded to the fact that we don't have a president. Now, I would argue
anybody touch on something that you just brought up. I'm sorry, because you got me on a roll in that last segment, and this is important.
Yep.
Okay. If Joe Biden, let's say they decided to, because Joe Biden is just incompetent and he's not capable right now of leading this country, and that's clear. And it's sad, but it just is the way it is. Actually, he could step down. He could pardon everybody that he wants to pardon, to include his son and all of his family members, and he probably would. But he could actually step down. Kamala Harris could step into the presidency right now, and guess who she could make vice president? Tim Walz. Right now. This could it is not unprecedented. That happened during the Kennedy or the Nixon administration when Nixon had to step down, and Agnew had to step down, and Ford came in with Rockefeller out of the governor of New York. It happened in the 70s. So that's happened before. Now, do I think that is going to happen? I would say probably not, but is it a possibility? Absolutely. Because Joe Biden is so incapable of leading this country, and we are in a really desperate spot right now. So if we're able to get through November, right? November is election day, and I can tell you the governor of Pennsylvania has already said it's going to take weeks to count the votes in Pennsylvania. We cannot have that. Donald Trump ought to be on the campaign, and part of his stump speech ought to be, we should know the results of our election on election night. We should absolutely, before 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock on East Coast time or whatever, or Pacific time, we should know the results on election night. What the results of we have so much technology, so much of an ability to communicate. We have plenty of people to get in there and count votes, as long as they're the right people counting votes, and as long as it's done in a balanced and fair way. There should be no question as to who won the election come election night, and period. And that ought to be part of the stump speech. I'm out there talking about that kind of stuff to the people that I'm speaking to, because there's no way that if we're counting votes after election day, and I'm not talking about recounts and stuff like that. I'm talking about counting votes, to determine who won. And the governor of Pennsylvania already said they're going to be doing that. He said it could take up to 2 weeks. That's unsatisfactory. We cannot have that. We are a better country than this. And if we can't do that on election night, then I'm telling you, it's going to give me a really bad feeling if we don't know when we wake up on the 6th of November and know who won the election. If we're all in this tizzy and chaotic environment with the outcome of this current election on the 6th of November, the day after, and we don't know, and there's all kinds of this state, that county, and it's going to be bigger. As I said at the very top of your show today, the Communist Chinese Party are behind the theft that we are about to experience, and it is very real. They have the full capability to do it. It will be done from multiple attack vectors, and people in the Democrat Party know it. The leadership in the Democrat Party know it, and they know exactly what happened in 2020 because they bitched about it. Excuse my Irish. They griped about it in prior to 2016. I mean, so these are things that they have been talking about for decades, and yet what they did was they pulled it off in 2020, and they're going to pull it off in 2024 because you cannot tell me that Kamala Harris, who has nothing to offer, nothing intellectually to offer, except these platitudes. We're in a tough spot here, and what I want people to know is you got to get involved. Like the hopium to offer America is you can't sit this one out. Everything's got to be left on the field. You got to get involved. You got to be at the county level. You got to be in the polling stations. You got to do, fill these volunteer positions. There's over 200,000 volunteer positions unfilled still in the GOP. And don't wait on the RNC to hire you, folks, or to come out there with messaging to get you hired. You got to go down at your own local level, and you got to say, what's unfilled? I'm going to fill it. We're going to get involved. You got to be part of the count. And it's not in places like Alabama or Nebraska. It's got to be in places like Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's got to be in Detroit, Michigan. It's got to be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's got to be in places like Phoenix, like Fulton County, Georgia. It's got to be in these critical areas, these critical places where the Democrats are paying people to go vote. Okay? I mean, I'm not making this up. This is all well known, and it's exactly what they're going to do, and it's the part of their plan. Our plan has to counter that by stepping up the amount of people that get involved in our local levels. That's what Donald Trump needs right now. He needs, it's not just people showing up to rallies and cheering him on. It is actually those same people getting involved in their communities and doing it in a big, big way. And frankly, if your state has mail-in balloting or early voting, then don't wait for Election Day, because what happened to Carrie Lake on Election Day in 2022 in Maricopa County? Half the machines went down and people were not able to vote, and they went home because they waited until Election Day. I hate to say that to don't go vote on Election Day, but if there are state laws that say early voting and mail-in ballots are lawful by those states, until you change those laws, then pay attention to who's putting things into drop boxes. Pay attention to how many mail-in ballots are going out. If you didn't request a mail-in ballot, you shouldn't receive a mail-in ballot. And if you did, you need to go immediately to your county election commissioner and tell them, and you need to get your local Republican executive committees or local Republican assemblies and talk to them and say, hey, look, I received a mail-in ballot and I didn't request it. And I'm planning on going in on Election Day, or I'm planning on voting in person early because they have early voting. I mean, people have to understand what is happening in your local environment in order to be able to participate as citizens. As that sign right there says, "We the people," and protecting our individual rights. That's how you have a national impact. That's how we change the direction of this country. We do a course correction by getting Donald J. Trump back into office. If we don't, we are going to lose the we the people, and we're going to move rapidly down a communist socialist system of government, and we'll be known as the United Socialist States of America instead of the United States of America. And I can't say that any more plainly or clearly, that if you don't get involved, then we don't have, then as citizens, there's no excuse. You have no excuse. You've lost the right to have an excuse about how screwed up things are. We're the ones that put these people in office. We can be the ones, and we should be the ones that take them out. And I'm talking about local offices, state offices, and federal offices. And if they're not doing the job like Speaker Johnson, and I'll get off my high horse here, Jason. Speaker Johnson, let me point to one thing. Trump, and he's rightly so, he's on this SAVE Act, which is this voting act that they want to pass, and there's no way that this thing should pass. And they're going to try really hard to pass it, and they're going to blame the Republicans for suppressing the vote. What Johnson ought to do at the end of the month of September, is he should say, okay, I am not going to have the continuing resolution to maintain the government spending go beyond the 30th of September, and literally threaten to shut the government down by threatening to not have the continuing resolution go forward, and make it about the SAVE Act. And let's see how many Democrats then are willing to put their hands up and say that they want this thing. Essentially, the SAVE Act means that the federal government is going to run our election system. And that's not how we want to do it. And that's the kind of like boxing match or chess match that we are in right now. And Speaker Johnson, if he listens to something like this, and I have sent that message in other forums, if he doesn't do something that dramatic, then we're not going to be able. Then number one, he doesn't have the, he's not going to show the guts that's necessary right now to be able to call these people out. Otherwise, it's going to make the Republican Party and the media is going to jump all over this as though we are hurting people's right to vote. We are suppressing, those disenfranchised. They love these words, the disenfranchised voters. And that's not what needs to happen if the Republican Party is smart and they take the right tactics and do the right things to call out the Democrats for what they are, which is socialists who want all the power up at the top, at the federal level. And that's called tyranny, that's called dictatorship, that's called communism. And that's the direction that we are heading. We don't get this one right.
In these final few minutes, I want to focus on the vote itself. Now, I would argue, in large part, people that have voted in the past, people that are registered for either party, have made up their mind a long time ago. They're either voting for Trump or, in most cases, against Trump, not necessarily for Kamala Harris. I would also argue RFK Jr. could have pulled more votes away from Trump, but still pulled some from Kamala. Obviously, you have Jill Stein, you have Cornel West. They will pull some from Kamala Harris. But at the end of the day, the only people's votes that we're trying to go for here are probably people that have never voted for before. And I think that Trump kind of recognizes that. That's why you've seen him at the Libertarian National Convention. That's why you've seen him at the Bitcoin conference. That's why he's on this podcast tour that you didn't see him on in 2016, 2020, directed towards a younger audience. If he's able to get those people in, what are some of those reforms we need right away? Because number one, I think that Vivek Ramaswamy, although imperfect, one of the things he said is let's slash the bureaucracies in half, Social Security style. I thought that was brilliant. But then you talked about the voting system, and you said two key things. You talked about the machines, and you talked about the early voting, aka mail-in ballots. They've got to be gone. We've got to find a way that we don't have these machines. I've argued since 2004, we have progressively gotten worse. And not only has it become harder to audit our elections, in the past, when you would criticize an election, yes, you may have been crucified by the mainstream media in the court of public opinion. That shifted into being sued by these companies, and then criminal charges where people like Tina Peters, who tried to do their job, are now facing prison time. This has been a very, very dangerous incremental move. And I think that we have to pull that system down almost immediately so that if we do get it in 2024, it does not happen in 2026. Thoughts?
Yeah. Number one, the United States Postal Service must be removed from voting, period. The United States Postal Service works for the executive branch of the government, meaning the President of the United States, and is deeply involved and deeply corrupted. And it is unconstitutional to have an element like a department, in this case, a U.S. Postal Service, involved. It's totally unconstitutional that they're involved in our election system, period. Now, you're going to get a lot of pushback on that. I'm going to get a lot of pushback on that. But that's true. And there is a case in federal court right now that is challenging that, and it's probably going to end up at the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to rule that it is unconstitutional. That's number one. I mean, how much time do we have here, right? I mean, to talk about, reforming FBI, Department of Justice, Department of Defense, the CIA, the entirety of the intelligence community, but principally the CIA, the Department of State, all of these different aspects, the National Security Council, the various commissions, agencies, activities, and departments that exist inside of our government. These are all things that I'm very familiar with, and because I ran one of them, and I can tell you that the bloat in government is out of control, and a president, in this case President Trump, if he wins this election, and God help us if he doesn't, I mean, but that's why I keep saying we got to get involved in this stuff. When he gets in there, he has got to immediately focus on that. I know he's talked about, bringing on Elon Musk to look at government efficiency. It's more than efficiency. It's government reform. And then the other aspect is accountability. The other half of that is accountability. he must hold people accountable that committed treason against the United States of America, principally against him as the duly elected president of the United States, but also against the United States of America. People committed treason, and those people must be held accountable, and they know who they are, and we know who they are. And that's been laid out in spades. And the last thing is Trump has got to be very, very smart about the type of people that he decides to bring in to the executive branch of the government with him, because these have got to be people who are, not blindly loyal to Trump, but loyal to the Constitution of the United States of America and want to follow the agenda that we must take, that the decisions that he must make as president of the United States in order to do the things that I just talked about. I mean, he can't have the same type of people around him that he had, in the 2016 to 2020 timeframe. I mean, like I just said, Pompeo and Pence were two people that convinced him not to release the JFK files. I mean, among other things. So I'm putting down the gauntlet right now, because there are things that we need to be doing as citizens. We need to be engaged. We need to be waking more and more people up. We need to get more and more people involved. I'm going to do my part, to go around this country and leave it all out on the field, like I say, as a former athlete. Put it all out on the field. When the game's over, all you can do is say, I've done my best, and that's what I want to be able to say personally. And I do believe that Trump is trying to do that right now, and bringing everybody, together. And that was Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s big message, is really a message of unifying. And he realized that, as a former Democrat, as I am, he realized that the party that he was part of, the Democrat Party, they're actually vicious, they're relentless, they're brutal, and they are not democratic. They are tyrannical, and they are still going to try to do things that, frankly, that no Democrat party should be doing, because they're not a party of democracy. They are a party of communism. The left has the communist element in that former party has so taken over the reins, and they'll tell us all kinds of BS on the mainstream media and the corporate media. Don't believe a word of it. Don't believe a word of
General,
it. These people,
when you look at the Democratic Party, I mean, all you have to do is look at how much they care about democracy. 2016 primaries, whether you love them or hate them, Bernie Sanders beat Hillary Clinton. 2020 primaries, Joe Biden wasn't running the table. It was coordinated efforts for them to drop out Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, etc. To give it.
These are people, exactly. And
Well, they gave it to a dementia patient. And now this time around, General, the candidate didn't even get one vote from one American citizen.
Yeah, but don't lose sight. Don't lose sight of, I don't want your audience to lose sight of the dementia patient. It's who they control, and who are they? They are this globalist element, and it includes people like George Soros. It includes the likes of Klaus Schwab, who's running a World Economic Forum. I mean, I want people to understand, these are very, very real things. It includes the Xi out of the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, these people are working to basically create a globalist society run by the likes of the World Bank, World Health Organization, World Trade Organization, United Nations, and the Chinese Communist Party is directly behind that. And people like George Soros, who wants to take this country down. And so, that's why they put people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in charge. That's why they put people like Barack Obama in charge. Barack Obama may be doing the tactical day-to-day maneuvering of what's happening inside the White House for the policies coming out of there, but actually he's being controlled. These are people, these are real things, real people with a real agenda, and it's been going on really since 2015 or earlier, but certainly I'd say since 2008, but certainly since Donald Trump stepped into the fray and won in 2016. And I was standing shoulder to shoulder with him when we went through that brutal campaign. But we won because they did not cheat enough to steal it from him then. And we have the background on that. That's another, conversation for another day. But I appreciate you having me on, Jason, and everything that you're doing with Patriot.tv. Your show is amazing. I watch you all the time. I need to come on more often.
Yeah, we almost did the full hour, but we got to get you on for a full hour next time. General Michael Flynn, folks, he really needs no introduction. Thank you so much, and we'll catch up in October if we don't do it before then at Reawaken America. Take a quick break. We're going to come back. We got ex-Green Beret, Ivan Racklin. You're not going to want to miss it. More Making Sense of the Madness after this.
I don't know about you, but I have to have that cup of coffee in the morning. And Kingdom Cup is mold-free, it is pesticide-free, and it is organic. It's got this flavor that is delicious. You don't even have to put cream or sweetener in it.
Why did we go with the bean form, the whole bean? Because ultimately the powder form is the one that gathers the most moisture. And that means the more potential mold development. This is actually organic, mold-free, certified. That's important because ultimately people drink coffee, it's cultural. And so we tried to meet the culture where it is and create a healthy alternative.
Make the healthy choice for you and your family. Try mold-free, pesticide-free, and it's organic. Delicious Kingdom Cup coffee. And it's available now at the Patriot TV store. Go to patriot.tv and click on store. You'll find Kingdom Cup coffee in the health and wellness section. Order Kingdom Cup coffee at the Patriot TV store now.
What if this happened to you when you're alone? Or what if it happened here? With MedGuard Alert, you're never alone. You can connect with medical professionals anywhere, anytime. And now MedGuard is introducing our exclusive new Care Watch. If you need help quickly, use it from anywhere to contact medical professionals. No cell phone required. The Care Watch is not only a life-saving medical alert device, it's a revolutionary health monitoring system that checks your blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen saturation, and much more. And here's the best part. If you have Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. The Care Watch is only available through MedGuard Alert. Call us right now. We have monitoring programs starting as low as $1 a day. The call is free, activation is free, shipping is free, and no contract is required. Remember, with Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. Don't wait. Call us to get your Care Watch right now. Operators are standing by.
We are now joined by ex-Green Beret and info warrior Ivan Racklin. Now, Ivan, you have been in this arena for quite some time, especially when it comes to elections. You're on the Reawaken America tour. Where are we right now in this home stretch to 2024?
Well, thanks for having me, Jason. And right now, we are basically on the ascendancy. When I say that, a lot of people missed what happened over the last week, which is absolutely massive. In the last couple of weeks, not only was the DNC convention an epic and abysmal failure, but also Elon Musk decided to go ahead and move Twitter from California to Texas. What that means, which has a massive consequence, is now the criminal trove of evidence that Elon has been sitting on, as he announced in December of 22 when he tweeted, "Twitter is a social media company and a crime scene." Well, now the criminal evidence is going to be within the jurisdiction of the Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. And that means that they can now subpoena and release all the communications of Jim Baker, the Deputy General Counsel at Twitter, who before he was the Deputy General Counsel at Twitter, before Elon fired him, before he got to Twitter, he was the General Counsel of the FBI, who was the guy that authorized the illegal spying on General Flynn, Carter Page, and President Trump, candidate Trump, and then President Trump. He was the one that authorized and kind of supervised as the senior lawyer the Mueller investigative team. So as you start to dig into his communications, meaning all of his devices that were issued to him by Twitter 1.0, his cell phone, his tablet, his laptop, his computer, all of his communications in Twitter, DMs, emails, internal Slack channels, it's going to showcase his communications with every single person, either directly or indirectly, that is listed on my deep state target list of over 600 individuals. That will be the key to unlock the kingdom. And then Elon can then go ahead and have a conversation with, let's just say, RFK Jr., President Trump, and AG Paxton, where 2 billion people watch and consume it instead of 1 billion, as those four discuss all of the evidence in what I coin as the mother of all Twitter files. The ideal date for Elon Musk to start that process of the mother of all Twitter files is Tuesday, the day after Labor Day, which is just in a few days. And I'll be doing a very long stream on X and Rumble, it looks like, giving you all the details of everybody on that deep state target list, their Twitter handle, and why they are on the deep state target list by category and the category of treason that they committed. And it only helps that one of the whistleblowers that came out was last week, a few days ago, a guy by the name of Mark Suckabuck. He thought that I was going to give him amnesty because I had been basically saying, we're going to give you amnesty if you come out before September 3rd with your evidence in committing treason with the federal executive branch actors. Well, that doesn't apply to the principles on my deep state target list. So, Mark, thanks for admitting to genocide, and now we're coming after you, and we're going to be coming after the rest of the members of that deep state target list.
Well, I certainly think that Mark Zuckerberg has tried to change his persona via public perception with the commentary on the Trump assassination attempt and now this. I'm still skeptical that Elon Musk will release all these files. I just want to put that out there. And then let's say he does, because we already have Missouri versus Biden, right? And obviously, the state Supreme Court made the correct decision. There was clear collusion between the government and big tech. Yet when it got to the Supreme Court level, we get to this whole no standing thing again. Now, Alito, Gorsuch, and
again, you're relying on the federal government again, which is not. That's where the skepticism should be. In order to address your skepticism, I'll say it this way: the key here is that the Texas Attorney General is the driving force. The most influential two people on the planet right now, and specifically in the United States, are Elon Musk because he owns the data. Number two, the law enforcement entity Paxton is the one that can then subpoena all of it without really implicating Elon Musk in anything because he didn't own or have the platform known as Twitter at the time when all this was going on. Keep in mind that Kamala Harris's former comms team, when she was senator, before that were Twitter executives. So we can go and dig into those communications, right? So in order to address the skepticism, I'll say it this way. All the Twitter files that were released were done before Elon endorsed President Trump. Now that he has endorsed President Trump, he is now in a position to I only see one option for him to survive. Because if he doesn't release this trove of criminal evidence proving all the conspiracies that took place, then he is toast. They're going to do to him what they just did to Pavel Durov on steroids times a trillion. Okay? And so his only option to survive as a businessman and even survive as a human is to expose the same people that are trying to assassinate Trump and remove him politically are the same people that are trying to remove Elon Musk. That's why Brazil is being used as that cutout surrogate on behalf of the belligerent Biden criminal syndicate and beyond, and the 51 spies who lied, etc. Like all the categories on my deep state target list in order to try to take out Elon Musk. But he holds the keys to the kingdom with AG Paxton. And just so that you know, yes, I have been communicating I had a 5-hour meeting with Matt Taibbi explaining all of this, one of the two authors of Twitter Files. I've been communicating this to Michael Schellenberger. I've been communicating the deep state target list and kind of the path forward with members of Congress as recently as a couple days ago. Yes, the Judiciary, Weaponization, Oversight Subcommittee, the Oversight Overall Committee, Comer's office, right? And so all of them are on notice. The court of public opinion is now becoming more informed of who specifically can do what. And you're going to start seeing me over the next few days hitting some pretty significant podcasts on Rumble, very big names. So just stay tuned as more and more millions of people start to understand the path to body checking this lawless and belligerent executive branch. The real easy path is for Elon and Paxton to work in tandem to expose all of the conspiracies, the illegal spying, because they communicated. Jim Comey has a Twitter account. Who else? The Jim Baker has a Twitter account. John Brennan has a Twitter account, and so on and so forth. a couple hundred people of those 600 on my deep state target list. And that, coupled with all the internal Twitter holdings, is going to prove the communications of the deliberate illegal censorship scheme that not only murdered many people through the COVID con, but also the censorship in order to steal elections in 2020 in various states, and then in 2022 in Arizona. You're going to find all of that evidence in there geotagged so that Ken Paxton can then allocate that geotagged criminal transmission to the appropriate state AG or the appropriate county district attorney. And then he'll just remind folks, hey, you can conduct the precedent already set at the county level of your colleague Fulton Fanny or Alvin Bragg with this evidence. And then if you're an AG, why don't you go ahead and continue the precedent set by Letitia Peekaboo James in New York? And then when sheriffs are basically given the order to conduct an arrest warrant or to execute an arrest warrant, then they can be reminded that they can do so in an objectively reasonable manner, similar to how their colleagues at the U.S. Capitol Police and the Metropolitan Police Department conducted themselves on January 6th. One example is how
Ivan,
Michael
hold on. We got to take a break.
On Ashley Babbitt, and Lila Morris conducted her objectively reasonable conduct on Roseanne Boyland.
We got to take a quick break. We're going to come back. Final segment on this very, very large issue. We'll see where it goes in court after this final segment of Making Sense of the Madness.
Did you know that thousands of authors across the country have written books and published them with Page Publishing? If you've written a book, Page Publishing can help you through the process. We cut through the confusion of the publishing world to make it easy for you. If we decide to publish your book, your work ends and ours begins. From copy editing and proofing to typesetting and book cover art, we get you printed, distributed, and sold on Amazon, Apple iTunes, and in bookstores across the country. We'll even help you promote your book. That's right, we do all this for you. Biography, self-help, mystery, novels, sci-fi, even a children's book. No matter what genre, Page Publishing can bring your book to life. Call today for your free author submission kit and find out how you can be the next published author at Page Publishing.
Call for your free author submission kit at 855-993-2114. That's 855-993-2114.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
We are back with Ivan Racklin. Let's say we get these things from Elon Musk, past that skepticism. Let's say we get it into the court in Texas. Let's say we get a favorable outcome. What stops the federal Supreme Court from doing what they did with Missouri versus Biden? We only got a few minutes. Go ahead.
All right. I need you to get your head out of the courts, okay? What I'm advocating here is at the court of public opinion. So what that does is when America, uncensored, now realizes that the 2020 election was absolutely illegitimate, stolen, and Biden is illegitimate, thus making Harris illegitimate and her candidacy illegitimate, then 90+% of the country will be demanding a free, fair, and transparent election going into November of 2024. The way that I see it, the only way to have a free, fair, transparent election, once the political will is to do so with this trove of mother of all Twitter files, is for people to demand that their state legislatures exercise their Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 powers, which means they get to vote on November 5th as a legislative body on how that state allocates its presidential and vice presidential electors. And when that's done, live streamed on X, Rumble, Truth, and C-SPAN, and everyone votes by political party affiliation, the Republicans control 274 electoral votes. And we get to see who is a registered Democrat Republican and how they vote under that framework. And then the American public can be confident that no illegals voted, there were no drop boxes used, no machines, no software fraud, manipulation, no mail-in ballots, no drop boxes, no illegal signature verifications, and no foreign interference. Because we get to see every single state rep and state senator voting on video live as they vote to allocate that state's electors. That is the whole kind of process and sequencing. And when we get to that, it's literally a guaranteed win for President Trump, free, fair, transparent, where everybody is going to have to accept it as it is.
Ivan, let everybody know where they can check your stuff out and support your work, sir.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I'm on X, Ivan Raiklin. I'll be coming out with some bombshell stuff, obviously. And then on Rumble, those are kind of my two main platforms. Also, RAIKLIN.
All right. Thank you so much, my friend. Guys, another banger of a show. You know how I do it. It is not about left or right. It is always about right and wrong. Check us out via the Patriot Defender program. I absolutely love you guys, and we'll see you on the flip side.